Hey everybody, Dave Clark, aka the Pattern Guy. Hey, welcome to another Chalk Talk. Today I'm going to talk about core boxes, okay? I wanted to get a supply of different kinds of core boxes that we have. I've got one here. As we go along, I'll explain some more, but what happened was one of the viewers actually asked some advice on how to make a core box, okay? So I'll explain to him how to do that core box. Everybody else, you know, should be able to learn something along with it. Okay, so I do have an example. Like I said, there's so many different kinds of core boxes too. You know, I don't have them all here. As I get them in, I'll explain them. Okay, so I made this for a customer a couple of years ago. It's a chimney for a smokestack for a live steam locomotive. Okay, so it's got to be hollow, right? So we need a core to core it out to make it hollow. Okay, so what we do with that is I made a core box. Okay, this is called a split core box because obviously it's in two pieces. Okay, so the reason I made the split core box is because I'm planning on selling more of these down the road to railroad guys. Okay, so I'm making some equipment for myself as I'm going along. Okay, so this is traditionally like split core boxes like this are, you know, for higher production. It saves on guys making cores. Like with this, say if this guy wanted to keep the pattern himself in the core box, he just needed one or two of these. What I would have done is I would have just made a half. Okay, it would have had ends on it. All right, that would have made it what's called a dump core box. Okay, so you guys would fill it up full of sand, strike it off like you do the molds. Okay, it would harden, you dump it out, and you make another one. All right, and then when they're both hard, you end up gluing them together, and you'd get, you know, something resembling this. Now this is what's called a core stick. Okay, if you notice, this is plastic. Okay, and like I said, you can either pour plastics to make core boxes, or you could just, you know, carve this out. So if you look at this, it's straight down on the bottom part and tapered. I could have taken a block of wood down here, cut it out on the bandsaw, took it over to the oscillating spindle sander and sanded that out, and then from where it starts tapering to the end, you know, same thing. I could take it on the oscillating spindle sander but put draft on it. Well, it wouldn't be draft, but the angle of the smokestack. Okay, so you could have done it that way. My way, or this way, you know, making this core stick was way easier. And then, you know, I poured these plastics off of there to get that configuration. Okay, so that's just one kind of core box. Okay, so I got a viewer out there, right? And like I said, once I get more into all, you know, we do a lot of dump boxes. Well, the dump box, like I said, dump boxes are, you know, a lot of times it's just like you can do two halves if they're symmetrical though too. There's sometimes if you do an elbow, they're not symmetrical, so you got to make a right half and a left half. Some foundries don't want you to pin them. These are pinned, okay? But for me, this is just way easier, okay? All I got to do is, you know, pin this together, dump my sand in there, gas it, and I got a core. I'm done. I don't have to glue things together. And with me right now, the glue, it's not that expensive. There's a special core glue. It can glue sand together. I buy a bottle for 15 bucks. I use a tiny little bit. It sits forever, dries up, and it's garbage. So if I could do something for myself, for my own foundry, you know, I like to try to make them one piece if I can. It doesn't always work that way. Okay, so back to one of my viewers. Name's Tobin out there. Tobo. All right, Tobo Mott. He has a guy that wants to have him make some, I believe it's bronze spearheads. Okay, so he kind of asked me for some suggestions on how to make a core box for it. So the way I would go about this project, okay, say I got your board, your pattern board. All right, then you'd have your, like I said, I'm not the best artist, right? 2. All right, so you got your spearhead. All right, and then you'd have your other half, okay? So he's got to put a hole in there that's kind of conical shaped, all right, for them to put a shaft on it. Okay, so he was basically asking the best way to go about, you know, making that conical shaped like on a split. Well, to me, I wouldn't make a split box with this one. Okay, what I would do is you're going to have a core box that comes, or a core print. Okay, so what I would do is I'd have the core print come out here, and then on your drag half, I mean, actually with this it's smaller than you could do it on a Copan drag. Let's make this a little bit longer here. Okay, so what you got to do, I think I explained this once before too, you got to put what's called a key on the end of a core. Like if it's going to be, it's called a blind core. Okay, so like this one here, right, with this pattern, okay, you can see the red is what the casting is going to be, right? So this black is core print, okay? So when we make a mold on this, that's basically going to, you know, here's your mold, right? All right, so you're going to have your core print here, and there's your chimney. This goes up like that, and then there's the rest of the core print, right? So it's going to make a whole indentation in your mold like this, okay? So here out into here out, that's the black part, right? That's the core print, okay? Now that's where your core is going to sit into the mold, all right? And then the metal's going to fill around it, and you're going to get your casting, okay? So with this one, like I said, you have something for the core to hang on both ends, okay? So it's not an issue with, you know, once you mold it, you set the core, you're good, okay? So this, you know, you're not coming all the way up to the end of the pattern, okay? So you got to be able to have, you know, this core right here, it's got to be hanging up in your mold, okay? So I would make, you know, like a key. It's called a key. It's small enough where he could probably just make one side, but for simplistic reasons, okay, this is the way I would make it. I would just make a dump box, okay? And the way I would make that is, all right, you have your core box. I'll do a side view real quick first. All right, so you have your core box. So you would have your core print like that, okay? And then there's your core. All right, so basically what you could do is, I don't know what his capabilities are for, you know, I don't know if he's got the plastic. Like I said, you get that from Freeman. If I remember, I'll remind Joe to put a link on Freeman Manufacturer. They sell to anybody. They mail us. I do believe they sell us in quartz. All right, I'm not 100% sure. But the other thing you could do is, if you're not, is I'm trying to, I don't want you guys, I'm trying not to make it where, I don't want to make a MacGyver site where, you know, it's like you take bubble gum and band-aids to do that. I want to try to get you guys to do the right things. There are instances where I will kind of do the MacGyver thing, all right? So this is what Tobo might want to do. You know, like I said, I don't know his capabilities here. So what he could do is make a core stick, and, you know, it would look something like this, okay? With his little point on it, okay? And, you know, basically a top view. It will look like this, all right? So there's a couple ways you can go about doing that. What you could do, or when you do this, you know, this is just a square block, okay? So that's a square block, right? Then this tip right here, you know, you could basically, you know, like I said, I don't know his capabilities. He said he doesn't have a lathe in that, but if he's got a drill press or something, you know, you could get for this tip, what he could do is, you know, like a lot of drill presses, my chuck goes up to a 1/2 inch. So I believe this is 1 inch on his thing. So what he could do is cut a like 1 inch round piece out here. Let's just get rid of this here real quick. All right, so if he's got a, say, a piece of wood like this, and if you don't have, obviously you're not gonna take 1 inch round piece and put it in a chuck. I can't even do that, right? So you could drill a hole in your piece of wood, put a 1/2 inch dowel in the middle. You could chuck that up in your drill press. Like I said, traditionally, you know, we were taught not to. You know, the first place I worked at, you didn't take a file to a piece of wood. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? So you could take a rasp, you know, have that thing spinning in your drill press, and get your, you know, shape there. And then once this end is done, right, then you know, glue it onto your core print, okay? And then you'll have something like this, okay? Then to make the core box, okay, you could take another block of wood here, you know, whatever dimension this is here, all right, drill a little bit of a hole in here, and then you get this piece, however, you know, whatever depth your core print is, okay, you cut a hole here, like close, it would be a square hole, right? It would be, you know, your square hole there, and then you got your round one. Okay, what you could do this really close, make your core stick, put a couple pieces of wood across it so it's going to rest on the top of your core box, okay? So then what you could do is mix up a bunch of Bondo, fill this full of Bondo and just squish that down. That'd be the least expensive way to do it, okay? Then that Bondo will last you, I mean, you probably make 100 cores in that. I wouldn't do that for a customer, but if there was something that I had to do, you know, I always have enough repro around, like, you know, but there have been times where I have, you know, taken Bondo and make what they call a splash out of it or something like that. So, I mean, you could do it that way, or you can, like if you want to make it a little more permanent, nicer, whatever, you know, go to Freeman, get some repro. They've got other plastics. I haven't, you know, I've just always used Repro 83, Repro 83. They have other plastics. I don't know how if there's any that's less expensive. Look around. There might be other plastics on you know, different websites and that urethane plastics that you could use or whatever. I just don't know of any. So there is a company. It's called Hapco. We used to use those. I actually did use Hapco at one time here, but more for, I used to do some work for a company that used to do styrofoam. So I used to sell a special glue to glue styrofoam together, and then some kind of a wax product that you wipe all over the styrofoam pattern to fill all the holes in that. So, but Hapco's got a lot of different plastics too. We just, you know, I just don't use them. But Tobo, I know I hope I'm not killing your name here. You know, that's a couple different ways you could do it, okay? I literally would just make a dump box. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't do a split box or anything. You know, that'll get you going with that. And then, like I said, you just set it up on your, you know, pattern board. You know, what you would do is, here's your pattern board, like I said, okay? And then you'd have your core print there, and that's basically what we call a key. Okay, the technical term for it. Okay, and then here's the end of your spear tip. Okay, and then, you know, looking down at the, you know, I can't do it big here. You know, your pattern board, you would have your one fin that way, and then your other one's this way, right? Here, let's do this. Let's make a board thickness here. You know, so that you'd have there's your spear tip or your arrow tips or whatever, and then your core print would be there. Okay, so I mean that's the way I would go about doing this project if I was doing it. And like I said, it's you know, for you to make a core stick, like I said, you could do it on a drill press if you have a drill press. You know, you could do it with a hand drill. Like I said, I'm trying to get it where, you know, I want to get you guys where you're like the ultimate craftsman. I realize not everybody, you know, my shop, I gave you guys a tour of my shop. Look, my dad, most of these machines were his, you know, so that's one thing I've lucked out during my life. So, you know, my dad, a lot of these machines were, I bought a couple of them myself, but you know, it's hard to get a shop like this going. And don't forget too, this isn't a hobby shop, this is a business here too, even though it's in my garage. You know, and then I got lucky with hand tools. A lot of his buddies that were pattern makers in that, you know, they gave me a lot of their tools. And then I had a couple of his buddies actually make me things like those split centers for working on the lathe and that, you know. So you know, like I said, if you guys got a project and you're a little stumped on it, just, you know, write me a little note and I'll try to get together with you and you know, figure things out for you and you know, get things going. And like I said, you know, this would be, you know, a hole in here too, right? So I mean, that's the way I would do it. Just a thing too is, you know, you're gonna have to have some, if you do a dump box. All right, let's do this one last thing, and I got another thing I want to share with you guys too here. So with this dump box, okay, here's your box. Like I said, I would, however thick the core print is, right? So you're gonna have draft that way. All right, so when you make the hole for your shaft, you're gonna have to have a little bit of draft that way too. So I mean, I don't know how deep it's gonna go. So, you know, you gotta make sure that that's gonna pull out of there, okay? And then once you, like when you're setting this, okay, so you're gonna have, here's your mold, there's the hole for your core print, okay, you're coming back up a little bit, there's the shaft hole, and then this will be the shaft, right? All right, so what's gonna happen is this, when you set your core in there, this is gonna be, this surface here is gonna be here. So that's gonna be straight, but don't worry about it. Just make sure that this dimension right here on the top of your core print of your pattern is the same dimension as that, and it'll lock in there, okay? And then you'll have a little gap here which metal will probably get into, but you know, I mean, that's, you know, if you want to get, I wouldn't do it, but you know, you could bevel that. It's not, just let the metal in and cut it off later. That's the way I would do it. So that's the way you could do it. I don't know if I'd really do it any other way. I really don't. So I think that's the way I'd go with this. So real quick, I gotta go grab something. I want to share one more. It's a personal thing. I know you know, I'll just be back with you in a sec. Hang tight, guys. Okay, guys, I'm back. Hey, sorry about that. One more personal thing. I hate to do this, but I gotta do this here. You know, I gab a lot and then I blubber too. So hopefully I can get through this here. I kept in contact with my old master. Okay, the guy that taught me. I've mentioned him a few times. Old Joe, my old foreman, old German guy. He taught me so much in this trade, and I've been trying to keep in touch with him the last couple of years. His wife passed away and he's been in a nursing home. So I've been trying to call him quite a bit because he's very lonely in there because of COVID and that. Nobody could, you know, go see him and that. But it's trying to call him quite a bit to stay in touch and that. And I wanted to take him out to lunch, you know, go have some lunch with him as soon as the COVID thing went. But I just got a call from his daughter this week, and Joe passed away. So he loved his beer. So here's one to Joe. Love you, Joe. Sorry guys. He was a great guy, and he not only made me a real good pattern maker, I think Joe actually made me he made me a good person too. I worked with him for 12 years, and I'm gonna miss you, Joe. Love you. Sorry guys, you know, have a good one out there, man. We'll talk to you.